Howdy, I'm Jonathan Meir, Professor of Economics in the Department of Economics at Texas A&M University, and I'm glad to hear that you're thinking about majoring in econ at Texas A&M. So in this short video, I'll tell you a little bit about what economics is and why it's great. So what is it that we do? There's a lot of misperceptions about what economics is. So many people think it's about the stock market or interest rates, and those things do play a role, but at its core, economics is a way of thinking about the world. More importantly, it's a rigorous way of thinking about the world, a way of applying logic and mathematics to human problems. So we take this quantitative approach and apply it to a broad array of different kinds of questions. One's about human behavior and about policy applications. So what happens if you major in econ? Maybe that's the most important thing I should start with. So the sorts of jobs that economists have run an incredible array of different fields, industries, and so on. So there's obviously the obvious ones, so financial services, in economic consulting, and so on. But every tech company at this point has dozens of economists on staff, as does almost every professional sports team. Someone to handle those kinds of questions about how tickets should be priced, what goods are complements or substitutes for one another, and how best to maximize the revenues of that particular firm. But it goes beyond that as well. So many nonprofits have economists on staff. A lot of my research, for instance, focuses actually on the economics of charitable giving. So it really does run this incredibly broad range. And our students end up in so many different industries. It's really kind of mind-boggling how flexible economics is as a degree. And many of you may be considering a business degree. I think the best way to explain the difference between an economics degree and a business degree is to note that, again, economics is really about this logical approach for the world. So it's less that we prepare you for a specific job and more that we try to give you the toolkit so that you can take those tools and apply them to pretty much anything that you want to do. So it's a more general approach. And if you're not sure exactly what you want to do, and why should you? You're probably 17 or 18 years old. You give yourself that flexibility to figure out what's actually out there and then take your economics degree and apply it to pretty much anything. So there really is no end to what you can do with an economics degree. But let's put some dollar figures on that. So economics is one of the highest paying majors, and in fact there's fairly new research out of the University of California at Santa Cruz that shows that economics students tend to earn much more than what they would have done otherwise. These two researchers used the fact that at UC Santa Cruz, you can only get into economics if your GPA is above a certain level. So they compared people who were just below that level and those who were just above that level, who were very similar in most other ways, and found that econ majors earn so much more than what they would have done otherwise. And we see that here in this list of the highest paying majors by mid-career median. And if you look at that list, you see that economics is fifth on there at its mid-career median, over $100,000 a year, really only outstripped by chemical, computer, electrical, and aerospace engineering. And of the other ones on this list, economics is the only one that is a social science. So it really does provide you with very lucrative options. And again, I think it's because of that logical, rigorous way that we approach problems. Now, what if you're interested in moving onwards to graduate studies? So economics is one of the highest, economic students rather, are one of the highest scoring groups on the LSAT, the law school admissions test. And again, I think it's because of that logical, rigorous approach that we use to solving problems. So much of the LSAT is logic problems. The GMAT, which is the entry test for business school, economics, number 3, outstripped only by mathematics and engineering. And you'll notice far ahead of those more traditional pre-business majors like accounting, management, marketing, and so on. So again, econ students performing really, really well on those kinds of tests. So what kind of courses do we offer here? We start with these core classes of Principles of Microeconomics and Principles of Macroeconomics. I teach our large online Principles of Micro class, and I know that you might have had some bad experience with online classes. This one was designed to be online. It's actually really good, I promise. You then move into microeconomic theory and macroeconomic theory to build out your understanding of these concepts. And then we also have economic data analysis and introduction to econometrics. And that's where you take those statistical concepts and use them to answer really interesting questions. And sometimes those concepts may not be the most interesting and exciting themselves, but this is the way that you can, for example, learn when you can separate correlation from causation and solve those really interesting questions. This is what many of us in the economics department do with our careers, is ask questions like, why do people donate to charity? And what are the most effective ways to get them to donate to charity? As I mentioned, that's what a lot of my research focuses on. We then have a huge slew of classes on policy and behavioral economics. I've got this long list here for you, from public economics, which is the study of how the government interacts with individuals, economics of poverty and inequality, economics of education, which is another course that I teach, the economics of gender and race. One of my colleagues teaches a phenomenal class on sports economics, how to think about sports through this lens of this rigorous quantitative approach. Questions like antitrust economics and law and economics. Again, many of our students who are interested in law school really focus in on those, and so much more. And we do also offer many of these quantitative and finance-oriented courses, courses like program evaluation, which is again asking, when can we say that policy X actually caused outcome Y, as opposed to just the sorts of places that implement policy X or the sorts of places that tend to have outcome Y. Mathematical economics, financial economics, money and banking, and so much more. And then we round this out with a slew of high-impact activities, including study abroad, which of course has been on hold for a while, but we're very excited to get back to it. We have a number of reciprocal agreements with universities around the world, and then the university itself has a large number of programs where you can go somewhere else, immerse yourself in that culture, and at the same time get academic credit for it. We also have a really robust internship program. You can actually earn academic credit for a job that rounds out your education, teaches you how to apply some of those concepts that you've learned in class. I oversee this program as well in my role as director of undergraduate programs, and I've just been blown away by what some of our students are working on. We've had people intern in the White House. We've had people work for NBA teams doing statistical analysis of draft prospects. We've had people doing financial services and so much more. It's just this amazing way to figure out what you really want to do. And I actually enjoy reading the essays that the students write about their experiences, because it's amazing to see how much they learn about how applicable their economics degrees are, and also how the real world works. And it's just neat to see that. We also offer fast track and 5-year programs, and let me talk about these briefly because they are just an amazing opportunity to do something really cool. So our main 5-year fast track program is a master's in financial economics. And so the way that it works is you apply in your junior year, and your senior year you take a blended year with a mix of master's courses and undergraduate courses, and then you stay for a 5th year. And at the end of that, you're 22 or 23 years old, and you have a BS in economics and an MS in financial economics. And the students who come out of that program just do incredibly well, whether it's moving on to PhD programs or going into, again, pretty much any field of the labor force that they're interested in. We also have joint programs with the George H.W. Bush School of Public Service, where you can get a master's in foreign relations or public administration as jointly with your undergraduate economics degree. So we've got more information about that on our webpage. And again, it's just something to think about as you move forward. You don't have to make any decisions right now, but just think about, if you are interested in it, putting yourself in the best possible position to enter that program. And I should say, again, students with high GPAs throughout don't even have to take the GRE, the graduate examination, to enter. It's this very, very smooth transition, and again, a great opportunity to earn a master's degree as a part of your time at Texas A&M. We also have undergraduate research programs, 2 of them. One is a 1-semester program that's done with our master's in financial economics, and so those students get together with a master's student and jointly work on a capstone project. The other program, the Economics Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, matches undergraduate students with a faculty member, and they work on a project over the course of a year. And this is an ambitious thing. This really is something that is aiming very high. It's not like a book report. Here, just to give you some examples of the sorts of things that our students have done. Dr. Brown matched with Gregory Cohen, one of our former students who's now at the Federal Reserve, and this paper was published in Experimental Economics, one of the top journals in that particular field. Dr. Puller, who's currently our department head, worked on a project using data from roommate assignments at Texas A&M and looking to see whether being assigned to roommates who are dissimilar to you leads you to have more friends who are dissimilar to you. So sort of, does diversity beget diversity? Super interesting question. And I wrote a paper recently with 2 of my former students. David Miller is in private sector industry. Elisa Wolfsberg is finishing up at Stanford Law School. And this paper looked at the patterns of charitable giving around the Great Recession, which prior to the pandemic was sort of the biggest shock that we'd had to the economy in a very, very long time, and trying to understand how the patterns of charitable giving had changed around that time. And that paper got published and got a lot of interesting press. So I promised this was going to be very short. I've done my best with that, but as you already know, or will discover soon, we professors do like to talk. So what I'm going to do is put up this contact information for our amazing academic advisors, who you can email with your questions about specific course taking, transfer credits, and all that kind of nuts and bolts stuff that I probably should know the answers to, but don't. You can email our assistant department head, Mr. Kurt Felpel, with questions about the department or just further follow-on stuff. Or if you have sort of specific or general econ questions or about undergraduate research, you should feel free to email me at jmeir@tamu.edu. So I hope to see you around campus next year. Best of luck with your decision. Good luck, and gig 'em.